I want to talk to you about image size today. It's a really small change that can make a big difference in engagement and increasing those likes and those comments on your post. And it's really simple. And once I talk about it, you're going to be like, oh. So it's one of those things where once you know, you know. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to talk about the size of your image. So when you are doing the Instagram app, there's a few different sizes you can use. The biggest, the longest, I should say, being 4:5. And you can also do a widescreen image that takes up like this, right? I'm gonna use my hand motions here. So we've got 4:5, which is a little bit longer. We've got the square, which is standard, right? And then we've got widescreen. Okay, so I wanna talk to you really briefly about why we don't want to use widescreen and why we love square and 4:5. So when you're scrolling through your feed, just looking at everyone's posts, taking it all in, right? You usually go pretty fast. I know I do. So something really has to catch my attention for me to take the time to leave a comment, whether it be a great caption, which we talked about, or if it's just the image itself. So how can we increase the chance of someone taking longer to look at our image? Even if it's only a few seconds longer or less than a second longer, it can make a big difference. So for example, when you're scrolling through your feed, you take a longer time looking at 4:5s, remember this longer one, and looking at squares. Now, I have spent the last year or so doing much more of the 4:5s, the longer ones, and there's a reason for that. It's because it takes up more of the screen. So as someone is sort of scrolling down, let's pretend this is a feed, right? This stays on the viewer much longer. So it gives them more of a chance, more seconds to go by and look at this, right? Before they like, oh, maybe I like that. Maybe I want to bring that back up, give it a like, give it a comment, okay? If we've got this square, it's the same thing, not quite as powerful, right? But it's still going down the screen. It's still big enough to sort of make an impact. But if we have widescreen, so I'm doing my best with my fingers here. If we've got widescreen, it's more like this. So we don't have much to really work with. So that goes by pretty fast because remember, we're surrounded by all the other content. There's a lot of pictures above and below this one. So this goes by really quick. It's like swoop, and then you can forget about it. So widescreen, I try to steer away from. And it's actually something I've seen in my older pictures. If you scroll back a while, you'll notice a big drop in engagement when I did the widescreen photos. So I haven't posted a widescreen in a very long time. I try to stay away from it unless it's something that just really looks better in widescreen. But the fact of the matter is that people just scroll right past it because it looks smaller on the phone screen. And I am going to play a little video at the end just to give you another idea of this on Instagram itself. So what I've been doing is these longer 4:5s. That's sort of what I almost try to do every time, is be between a 4:5 and a square. So I think I'm actually posting more 4:5s than I am squares at this point. And the reason is because it takes up more time in the feed. It gives the viewer's eyes longer to look at the image. And it can increase likes and comments because the brain has more time to quickly process what's going on. Essentially, you're using a sneaky little tactic to really hold their attention. So what I'd encourage you to do is think about laying out your photos in square or longer height-wise, and try to avoid when you're setting up doing the traditional widescreen. Because once it's on the phone app itself, it becomes very small and it goes by very quickly. So what I'm gonna do now is pop up a screen recording so that you can see what I'm talking about. I had to scroll back pretty far in my feed to get you a good example, but here we are. This is a photo from over a year ago with 1,300 likes. It was a square one, pretty standard, right? And then I was experimenting with these horizontal widescreen photos. Bookstacks usually do really well, but this one only got 700 likes, which is almost half of the engagement of what the standard square post got. It's a pretty significant difference, right? Pretty surprising. And I want to explain in a minute why, but here's another one I did horizontal with 860-ish likes. Another significant drop in engagement. That is a widescreen photo and compared to a square one. again, a horizontal one that did a little better because the book was really popular and the colors were great. But compared to these square ones framing these that did 1,300 and almost 1,600 likes, the difference in engagement is pretty astounding. So the reason why I think this is happening is as you scroll through your feed, you go pretty quick, and these widescreen photos just don't take up enough of the view. So as you scroll through, you'll notice that as you're doing the widescreen shots, you're looking at those, you can already see the next image in line. And I think that that encourages the viewer to keep scrolling and not engaging. So instead of paying attention to that, I think what happens is they just keep going. They don't take a second to really look at it. Now, this is my feed today. This is a really recent one. And I want to explain how I'm doing these as 4x5s and why I think it's making a difference. So you'll notice that I'm doing almost entirely 4x5 crop sizes, photo sizes at this point. And the reason is because as you look at these, you'll notice that it takes up the entire screen. So the entire view of your phone while you're scrolling through Instagram is going to be my photo for that second. And it encourages the viewer more to stop because it's all they can look at, right? You can see the top line of the caption and just my photo. You can't see the next photo in line. It's just there as it is once you're on it, right? So it kind of encourages a focus on the post itself. On the skinnier horizontal widescreen posts, on the other hand, it's the opposite, and they just go by too quickly for people to pay attention. So it's pretty much squares and 4x5s on my feed. I haven't done a widescreen in forever because I noticed that significant drop in engagement. So I would encourage you to consider doing the same thing, just stick to 4x5s and the standard square to really take advantage of all the screen size you can have. And that's it for this little portion. Let's jump back into the regular video. So remember, what we want to be doing is doing our 4x5s, the longer images, the longer image crop, or the square, or somewhere in between the two, right? Because that gives us the most attention, the most time on the feed that Instagram allows. We want to avoid the widescreen that goes by too quickly. They can get really ignored, really lost in the general feed of things. Okay, so that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is a small tip that can go a long way. So pay attention to your crop sizes. Think about that when you're laying out your images, how you want them to be longer in height. So think about where your subjects of the photo are gonna go, and you want them to either be longer or square, and nothing smaller than a square, okay? All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope this helps you, and I'll see you on the next one.